Welcome to Pittsburgh, Jaray Jenkins, and also goodbye, Luq Barcoo. So, the Pittsburgh Steelers have made a roster move. They've signed a wide receiver in Jaray Jenkins, and in a corresponding move, have waived an injured player in cornerback Luq Barcoo. But before we get more into it, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news and updates. Also, like the video. Now, let's get right into it. The Pittsburgh Steelers were at the max players allowed to have on their roster. So, in signing Jaray Jenkins, that means they had to release or waive a player. And doing so, they decided to do Luq Barcoo and waive him because he's injured. So it's with an injury destination. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they signed Jaray Jenkins, and he's just another player who's added to the wide receiver depth right now, and someone who's going to have a chance to compete and have a chance at preseason and training camp activities to maybe end up making this final roster or even the practice squad. But this is Jaray Jenkins' profile in terms of his introduction to the team. So just like every other player that we signed this offseason, I did an introduction to you, and this is Jaray Jenkins. So Jaray Jenkins, who is he? Well, he went undrafted in the 2023 NFL Draft, and he initially signed with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he was waived and injured from their roster at the start of training camp and cleared in September. He has been a free agent ever since, but now he gets an opportunity to play or at least try to make the team for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Looking at Jaray Jenkins and his college tenure, he played for LSU, and he measured in the combine, the 2023 NFL Scouting Combine, at 6'1", and he also was 204 pounds and ran a 4.6 second 40-yard dash time. In the 4 years that he spent at LSU, he caught 89 passes for a total of 1,370 yards and an amazing 14 touchdowns. So even though he only caught 89 passes, 14 of them were touchdowns, so at least that's a good sign. And even though he has no experience at the NFL level in terms of games and regular season action, he actually did play in the preseason for the Jacksonville, and he pulled in 2 receptions for 32 yards, but then, like I said, was released prior to the season and start of the regular season. So Jenkins, he comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers with barely any experience at the NFL level other than preseason and like camp. Also, he comes to the Steelers as a player who's going to have a hard time making this wide receiver roster room, and the Steelers usually keep around 5 to 6 wide receivers, but they already have some guys on the roster who are already expected to make the team. So on the back end of the depth chart, there are a few guys he's be competing with, but it's going to be a really hard spot for him to make. For example, if the Steelers keep 5 receivers like they have done in past years, they would probably be George Pickens, Calvin Austin, Roman Wilson, and then Van Jefferson, Quez Watkins, based off the guys who we got this offseason. So that's 5 guys right there. So he really, if you think about it, is competing to be on the practice squad, or at least make a roster with a different team, or if someone surprisingly gets cuts, he may make the 5th roster wide receiver. So he really has a chance to prove himself, even though it's going to be a hard time making it. He has a chance to compete in preseason, training camp, whatever, show out not only for the Steelers, but also kind of perform for a different team, maybe looking to sign a wide receiver. More than likely, he'll end up on the practice squad if he does make the team. But if he doesn't make the team, then it's just another wide receiver, another camp body for practice, training camp, and just to play in preseason when other guys sit because of the late game activities. The thing for Jaray Jenkins that makes this tough as well, in terms of having no experience at the NFL level in actual games, is he went undrafted. And usually, maybe if you go undrafted and you're 20 years old, that you may get another opportunity down the road. But right now, he's 24 years old. So if he goes this season without getting the opportunity to showcase his talents in the regular season game, he'd be 25 next year. So he's on the older side of a wide receiver, And also, he spent 4 years in college, meaning that he needed all 4 years to show what he's capable of. Some people leave after 2 years, some people leave after 1, but staying in 4 years in college and then having no also experience at the NFL level in terms of making a roster is not a good look in terms of your resume. So it's going to be hard for Jaray Jenkins to get opportunities down the road from my perspective. But Jaray Jenkins, if he works hard enough, sure, that opportunity may come eventually. But Jaray Jenkins, he's now a Pittsburgh Steeler for the time being and is on this roster. So this is your introduction to him. And also, like I said, because of this move, they had to release or waive a player, and they waived an injured player in Luq Barcoo. And looking at Luq Barcoo, he was waived and injured, so he must have suffered some sort of injury over the first 6 days of practice at OTAs. He was signed by the Steelers last offseason, and he had bounced on and off the offseason roster before landing back on the practice squad for the 2023 season. At one point, he was named one of the top practice squad players in the NFL by CBS Sports. Looking at Barcoo, he entered the NFL league in the 2020 season as an undrafted free agent, just like Jaray Jenkins. And just like Jaray Jenkins, he also initially signed with Jacksonville as well. But he appeared in 3 games for the Jaguars in 2020 as a rookie. And so that means he actually does have experience. And he even made a start as well. He logged 10 total tackles and even 7 solo tackles, 1 tackle for loss and 1 pass defense in those 3 games that he played. So he has experience in this league. But it seems like Luq Barcoo, if I could take a guess about the most players signed by the Steelers since the start of last season or the start of 2 seasons ago, I would guess Luq Barcoo. Because it seems as though Luq Barcoo keeps getting cut, he keeps getting signed, cut again, signed, cut again, signed. It just seems like the cycle keeps repeating in terms of Luq Barcoo and the Steelers. Someone who keeps getting signed in the offseason, keeps getting cuts to sign someone else, or cut or waived because of injury, and later down the road signed again. So maybe the cycle will just keep repeating, and by the end of the offseason, he might be back with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I might be making another video with the Steelers cutting someone else and sign Luq Barcoo back to the roster. And he will end up on the practice squad probably. That's just how the cycle seems to be going for Luq Barcoo and his tenure with the Steelers. So the cornerback position is now one less body in the room to compete with a number of inexperienced names for a role behind Joey Porter Jr. and Dante Jackson. There was a lot of people competing for those final cornerback spots, but now it's just one less person to try to make the roster. He was a camp body in previous seasons. Now it looked like he might actually have a chance to make the team, but now obviously that's taken away because of an injury that he apparently suffered in the 6th day of OTAs since he was waived with an injury destination. So Luq Barcoo, he was a camp body and he made the practice squad. That's basically what I'm saying that Jaray Jenkins could basically do, because even though he may not have a chance to make the final roster in terms of 53 and be the 5th or 6th wide receiver on the roster, he still has a chance to compete, show out, and maybe be that person in the future, Luq Barcoo, in terms of the person who keeps getting signed, cut, and at least has a spot with the Steelers on the practice squad. So if he could follow the line of Luq Barcoo in terms of his tenure with the Steelers, that could be great for him based off the inexperience he has at this level. But this is your introduction to Jaray Jenkins and also your news and updates on the Pittsburgh Steelers roster in terms of them cutting and waiving Luq Barcoo from the team. I've done a recap and introduction for every new player we've gotten this offseason, whether that was via free agency, the draft, or whatever. I've done an intro and their profile is on the channel, so if you want to go check it out, go ahead. But this is the end of the video, and let me know your thoughts down in the comments below about the signing of Jaray Jenkins to the team. What do you think he's capable of doing? Can he make this final roster? Or do you think he's just another camp body and will end up getting cut from the team altogether? Or do you think he has a chance to make the practice squad? Let me know your thoughts. And also let me know your thoughts on the Steelers cutting and waiving Luq Barcoo for what feels like the 10th, 20th time. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news and updates. I've covered it all. I'll continue to cover all. And if you like listening and not reading Pittsburgh Steelers news, this is a spot for you. I cover everything. So like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on notifications. I'll see you guys all later. Till next time, I'm out. Peace.